Welcome back into episode number 11 of the One More K podcast, sponsored and supported by Lecker Nutrition. I am Marcus, and I am again here with Mr. Ned Phillips. How are you, Ned?
Marcus, I am always good. As you know, I'm extra excited this week, but I will keep my excitement at a suitable level.
You have a special episode coming up. We had Barkley's marathon over the weekend. What an exciting weekend. Magical things have been happening. I guess so much that you now are in a detox in India to detox yourself from that excitement.
I'm going to say that is correct. Yes, I am in a detox in India and I had too much excitement. If you want to put the two of them together, I think that is fair.
And you had a great 65K training run on Sunday?
Saturday. I was running. I set off pretty early, 4 a.m., got up at 3 something, and I knew the race finished at 5:17 a.m. Singapore time, so I was running, and as I got to like 5 o'clock, I checked my phone and saw there was 3 finishers and then 4, and at 5:16, I stopped running for a minute, and I looked at my phone, and I'm like, oh, she hasn't done it, damn. And I was like, and I just refreshed. I was about to put my phone away. And the magic tweet came through. So yes, I ran 65K. I was always planning to run 65. It's a loop I have in Singapore. But I was running while Jasmine and everyone else was doing their thing.
I asked you on Sunday if you want to record on Sunday the episode because of this exciting news. And then you said, no, it's okay. We can wait until today, Tuesday. So I'm sure you were holding back all the excitement, but now is your time to let it all out and really go all about, I'm sure, one of the most exciting weekends of the year for you. The Barkley Marathon happened over the weekend, and we had this extremely amazing effort by Jasmine Paris. So let's dig right into Jasmine. What has been happening? What's going on with Jasmine?
Question is, do we start with the Barkley as a whole? What I'm going to say, there's almost everybody who listens to this show knows what Barkley is. But just in case someone doesn't, the craziest, weirdest, hardest race, 120-ish miles off trail with navigation, with no checkpoints, collecting books in the woods, and of course run by the great Lazarus Lake. And I think the important thing to say is this: you're not meant to finish it. Lazarus has always been clear. You only find your greatness. You only find yourself when you don't finish. So like Backyard, he designed this to not be finished. So I'm going to say that Laz is going to be sad because there were 5 finishes. There's meant to be none. So we can talk about that as well. But yeah, what a weekend. 5 finishes. We're going to dig into all of them. Of course, the highlight being Jasmine. But what Jared did, and for any of you who don't know, we'll get into it, to enable Jasmine to do what she did was amazing. Marcus, how much of it did you follow, watch yourself?
I've pretty much been on Twitter, not 24/7, of course, but I was online a lot. My family was wondering what's going on, why I'm on my phone all the time. But yeah, it was definitely worth it to check out what's going on in all over the Twitter feeds. I was very interested to see this year's Barkley's, given that Laz has changed the course. He made it apparently harder, given that there were some finishers the last few years, so he intended to make it harder. But yeah, it was an amazing sportsmanship that happened amongst the top 5 the 5 finishers, where Jared and Jasmine had a little check-in after loop 4. And maybe you need to explain what happens after loop 4, Ned.
I will. And so one thing I would say is the weather was perfect. There was no fog. There was no rain. There was no snow. It was perfect weather. And Laz wrote this: it started to rain 1 hour after the finish. If it had rained, Jasmine couldn't have got down that hill at that pace. There's no way. There's no way. Like everything came together. The Barkleys, as most people know, 5 loops. The first one is everyone goes the same way. I think it's clockwise, then anti-clockwise, and clockwise. Laz changes up. But on the last loop, to ensure that people aren't doing it together, the person who comes back first gets to choose whether they go clockwise or anti-clockwise. So they can choose. Normally, there's only one person. So Marcus has put up here the finishes, and you can see from 1985, it was a British guy, Mark Williams. So 95. Remember, this race started in 86. Like, no one thought it was possible until Mark Williams did it, right? But you'll see in most years, there is, 1, maybe one finish. So you'll see 95, 2001, there was two, 2003, the next one, 2004, there was two, nothing till 2008. And if you scan through, in 2017, John Kelly finished, and no one finished till 2023. No one even got to the fifth loop in most of those years. But on the fifth loop, the first person chooses which way to go. So if we look at the results here, we see Ihor Veres. For those of you with the detective mind, they will know who Ihor is. Marcus, I'm sure you know, but what is Ihor's other claim to fame apart from winning Barkley?
Now you caught me off guard. I don't know.
He was the assist to Harvey Lewis at Backyard.
Yes, sorry. Now that rings a bell.
He's 28. He's a baby. He's 6'2", so he's a big baby. But in the world of ultra, where we're all 40 or 50, Ihor ran 106 yards. So that's 106 hours at Backyard as the assist to Harvey. First time at Barkley. They're called virgins. I don't think any virgins have. No virgin has won before. Actually, not true. Aurelian Sanchez won last year. So there's a story about Aurelian, so we'll talk about that. But to your point, what happened with Jasmine and Jared? Let me get this right. Ihor was first in. He went clockwise. Next in was John Kelly. He went counterclockwise. The next two were Jared and Jasmine. Jared was ready to go 5 minutes before Jasmine. But if he had touched the gate, he has to go clockwise. Clockwise is slightly easier than anti-clockwise. Jared's already finished 3 times. And there's a video of him in the night going to Jasmine and saying, hey, if you want clockwise, I'll wait for you. You can have it. It's all yours. I mean, he's such a gentleman, Jared. Like he's called the gentleman racer. He is. Well, she wouldn't have made it. If he had done himself and taken clockwise, she wouldn't have made it. She wouldn't have made it. Of course, this is all down to Jasmine, but Jared did it. He said, look, you want clockwise, you go. And then she did that. So, yeah, we had 5 finishers. We had Ihor Veres winning in just under 59. Marcus, guess what he said when he finished to Laz? He said, next year, make it 6 loops.
That's the question for later. What's going to happen after this? Jasmine is the first woman to finish the Barclays. I have the video of her post-race interview here. So I thought we're just going to give it a bit of a try and listen to her, what she has to say after the interview. I think it's a fantastic moment of her victory. So let's tune in for a second.
I think I was just telling myself, if you don't finish it now, you'll have to do it again. I was channeling all that, all that effort over the last 5 days. And it was like, I couldn't believe I was still going. It was like everything was screaming for oxygen, and I was just making it go harder and harder. And I guess I thought I'll either pass out or I'll finish. And then I got to the gate, and it was really helpful. You know, it was really amazing having everybody cheering me in.
If there's a message you could share with the audience, what would it be? Like, what would you want the people to know about Barkley and about what happened these past couple of days?
I guess I'd say thank you for following me and cheering me. And yeah, I guess whatever adventure you have, I don't believe in yourself and be willing to take some risks and give it a go. I had to come back 3 times, but I believed that it was possible. So it's worth putting the effort if there's something you really want.
Wow.
There were so many tears over the weekend. Can you imagine if she is... I've listened to Jasmine. She won the spine race outright before. And she's so humble. She's so calm. She's so just very humble. Almost doesn't like the spotlight. She's a vet. She's got 2 kids, normal life. She's not a pro. Like, she's not a pro athlete, right? This isn't... We're not in the Super Bowl here. Nobody's getting paid money for this. $1.60. Oh, my God, the best tweet of the weekend. The best tweet of the weekend, apart from Jasmine finishing. The race costs $1.60 to enter, right? It's a mystery how to enter. I don't know. Most people don't know. Somebody tweeted, you could charge $1.70 and people will still come. I mean,
very true.
So Barkley, it's just like, but I think, look, to Jasmine, look, She is a role model. She is amazing. Laz said about 8 years ago, there's a famous interview when Laz said, a woman can't finish this race. And he took heat for it. And he stuck by his word. And he said, look, you didn't ask me if I want a woman to finish it. Of course I do. And what do you want me to do? Make it easy for them? I want them to want to prove me wrong. I will take the heat so that a woman, nobody's happier than Laz. Nobody. But until last year, no woman had even got to loop 5. Jasmine did the best last year and got to the end of loop 4. And I messaged, we both know Roberto DeVito, who works for Red Dot. Well, doesn't work for, but he's friends with Jerry and Red Dot. As she started loop 5, I did some maths. She had 13 hours, 37 minutes to get back. Carl Sabe did it in 13 hours, 17 minutes, going super hard. And I was like, I don't think she's doing it, man. I don't want to be a no, but I don't think this is happening. She's not. Ehor, the winner took 14 hours. Had you given up, Marcus? Did you think she was? I must admit, I don't want to be the one that when I went to bed, I did not think I was going to wake up and see her do it. How about you?
I had a feeling she would make it. Third time lucky. I think it's possible. For some reason, when she passed through the tower, and it was very tight, but she looked okay. She looked rather fresh-ish, I guess, in that context. I had a good feeling about it. No, I think it was okay. I mean, I didn't know it was going to be that tight. So less than 100 seconds to go. I mean, just imagine 100 seconds. That is nothing on 60 hours. and she made it happen in that time. I think it's just so incredible. I cannot imagine the emotions of the people at the gate waiting for her. Incredible. The closest finish ever in Barkley's history. Unbelievable.
The close, of course. We don't count Gary Robbins 6 seconds, but he'd come in from the wrong way. But I think you're right. But why don't we do this? Let's go through, because I really think it's important. What a great race. What an amazing... Lazarus is everything. You know I'm such a fanboy. But he makes races that are right. As you'll see in my drop of wisdom, like I believe the world's going soft, apart from Laz. Laz is keeping us right, man. But some great races from so many people. Jared Campbell. So the winner was Ihor Veres, young Ukrainian, Canadian. He's won almost every race he's entered. Like this kid's dominating. Such a nice guy, beautiful person, doing great things. So Ihor Veres won and always looked like he would. And then I think second in was John Kelly. I mean, I've emailed with John a bit. Random. Okay, Marcus, you will love this. You will adore this. I don't know if you know this. His handle is Random Forest Runner. That's his. But it's not because he runs randomly in the forest. Marcus, he's a data scientist. And he does random forest algorithms. And Marcus, he runs a startup and he has investors out of Singapore. He has an investor that you know well out of Singapore. He's the data scientist at a company called Envelope Risk. He's the CTO data scientist, and his handle of Random Forest Runner, because Random Forest is a mathematical terminology for algorithms or something. That's why it's called Random Forest Runner.
Great guy. I have his Instagram post here on the screen. Anyone watching can see the finishing picture of the 5 conquerors of the Barclays. He wrote a very nice post about Jasmine as well, and I recommend anyone to read it. We're going to have it in the show notes, of course. I think the last sentence really struck with me. My daughters were there watching. Thank you, Jasmine, for showing them what I never fully could. So I think he points out how much of a role model she is. That's John Kelly. Who was then after John?
Well, hold on. John grew up on the course. John lives next door. John's family have been living pretty much on the course of Frozen Head State Mountain Park since 1780 or something. So John, or 18 something. So John is the local boy, third time finisher. So it was Ihor, then John. Then I believe it was Jared. 4th time, people. 4th time. Let's be clear. This guy, 4th time. So Jared is second from left here in the grey shirt. There's Greg on the left. There's Jared. There's Ihor. Obviously Jasmine. And in the red shirt, that is John. I mean, this guy, like, I don't know him, but like everything you see about him, this guy is the gentleman of all gentlemen. He's the kindest, nicest. He took Gary Robbins around the course. Like, this dude's like an unsung legend. And here's the interesting thing. Jared is a physicist. John is a data science. Jasmine is a vet. The owner of the course record, Brett Mornay, from 2013, is a physicist. I'm not sure what Greg Hamilton does, but you need brains as well as brawn to get around these things. These are smart people. Anyway, then came Jared. Then came Greg Hamilton. I don't know so much. He's an orienteer from New Zealand. Do you have any more on him, Marcus?
He is the first Kiwi to finish the Barkley, that's for sure. So that's, I think, something the Kiwis, the New Zealanders can be very proud of. He's an accomplished ultra runner. He's a 19th finisher, 59 hours and 38 minutes, also quite close to cutoff. So it's also not that wasn't easy for him. He's, I think, more unknown in the community, but yeah, very good stuff from him to come out of pretty much New Zealand all the way to Barclays.
You know, it's pretty cool, right? He's the only New Zealander. Like, no one in Asia. Tomo, I must shout out Tomo, who has been 4 or 5 times, did not make it through lap 4. And sadly, Tomo out of Japan, no one in Asia. And Damien Hall, oh my God, who is super close with Jasmine. He got lost again on loop 5. Last year he got lost. He got lost again on loop 5. Damo, come on, my friend. You can do this. Let's get back there and get it done. And look, Jasmine, when she went through the fire towers, 3 hours, 37 minutes to go. The winner, Ihor, took 4 hours from the fire tower. He's a 6'2", strapping, young, fit dude. Like Jasmine, like I wrote, and you'll hear in my drop, I can only imagine the mental anguish she went through on those last few hours, knowing how close. And that sprint up the line, man, that gives you goosebumps, right? Like that gives, even today, that still gives me goosebumps, right?
Yeah, I think those images of Jasmine sprinting to the gate will be for the history books. I think we want to look back on this one many more years and remember it. Very special moment.
I will say there's one other photo. It's in between loop 3 going into loop 4. There's a picture of Jasmine sitting in her chair. She's got her hands like this. You can see it. She's got this look on her face. There's Coke bottles, pasta, food on the floor. She's sitting there with this look, and the look of it, she is doing this mental wrestling. It is such a, to me, I almost like this photo more than all of the ones of her finishing. There are so many. Let me see. As we go through this, let me send it to you here. I will send it to you so you can see it. It is, to me, so when you think about Barkley and when you think about what Jasmine did, I want you to think about this photo particularly. And the reason I say that is a lot of, it's on your WhatsApp, Marcus, a lot of ultra is mental wrestling. A lot of ultra is that ability. She's been running, when you see this photo, she's been running for 36 hours, pretty much without sleep. So she's been running for 36 hours without sleep. And she knows she's got to go out for another 24 hours. And she's got that look on her that's like I know I'm going out. I know I'm going back into the fray. I know I'm going to do this. But man, like somebody wrote a beautiful little comment on it. It's like Jasmine contemplating her life choices. I was like, yep. Yeah. That's exactly it.
I do want to also point out this picture, though. It's her sleeping between loop 4 and 5. If you would not have told me that this is at the Barclays Marathon, I would have thought this is somewhere in New York City or, I don't know, given the amount of photographers and media around her. I do think it's noteworthy how much it's been happening just in this picture. We will talk about the general, I guess, social media buzz a bit in a minute, but
yes.
This picture tells you how much attention this one sleeping person gets in the middle of freaking nowhere in America, right? That's kind of,
isn't it
take that in and notice this media crew there.
It's a good segue into the media part because in that photo you showed, one of the trending tweets in Britain was small European woman. It was like a trending small European woman. And the reason for that is last year, so Keith Dunn. So shall we move on to the social media bit, Marcus? Anything else you want to say about the race?
Let's go.
Okay. Why is there no live feed? Why is there nothing else? Because Laz didn't want it. And I actually listened to an interview with Keith Dunn. About 14 years ago, Keith Dunn, who was keen on Ultra, approached Laz and said, look, I know you don't want any live stream or anything from the race. Could I come and tweet? And at first he wasn't sure. But this man, Keith Dunn, literally, like most things in life, he just made it happen. He called Laz and said, look, would you be okay? I know there's no coverage of the Barkley, but how about I come and just do some tweets? And over the last 10 years, he's become the guy, Keith Dunn. He covers fishing the rest of the year. I heard on the podcast, the rest of the year, he talks about fishing. We don't care about that. And Laz, he is the only person there. And like, it's getting more and more. And, you know, each year you can see that he gets a bit more coverage. But last year, coming down from the famous fire tower, he asked the people up on the fire tower, who's coming? And he was meant to say John, Jared, Carl. Last year he said, bearded man, tall man, mohawk man. Jarrett was nondescript man. And Jasmine was small European woman. Forevermore.
Now it all makes sense. Yeah, Twitter blew up. I think as we discussed trends and analytics here as well, I do want to dig a bit into this Twitter trend for Barclays. It seemed to me that the Twitter and then also later Instagram were the main two channels for this event. I want to highlight especially one tweet from Keith, the one that he says, Jasmine Paris finished loop 5 of the Barclays Marathon in 59 hours, 58 minutes, 20 seconds, got 2.4 million views on X, formerly called Twitter. 2.4 million views on Twitter. Can you imagine that reach of one single line tweet about this random event in America? What do we learn from this? I think just put in context. I mean, I follow Elon Musk, of course, on Twitter just to see what's going on with him. And his tweets regularly get 3, 4, 5, 15 million. So a tweet with a reach of 2.4 million is really ranking in the top 1% or even less than tweets. I mean, it must be more. I don't know the stats there, to be honest with you. But anything above 1 million is significant. So that this is going into the millions, I think really tells us first and foremost about the reach on Twitter in general. I mean, I do think they have done a good job in getting the algorithms right recently, but also how many people, of course, follow. And then if you look at the retweets, the reposts, the likes, the comments, the engagement was super high on the hashtag BM100. And as you said, small European woman, which was the one for Jasmine. What does it mean, Ned? What do you think?
I mean, it's mind-bending. We're a niche sport. Laz is in the niche corner of the niche corner of the niche sport. Like, it's unbelievable. And I'm super happy. Like, greatest sport in the world, right? Now, don't anybody tell us it's not the greatest sport in the world now. 2.4 million likes for a one-line tweet. Jasmine Paris, small European woman, finishes the Barkley. People who don't know running were messaging me. Marcus, so funny. People who don't know running were like, Ned, did you see this? Did you see this running event at the weekend? Did you hear that there's some lady finished this race? I'm like, yeah, I heard. I've been thinking of nothing else. I definitely heard. I like this word zeitgeist. It's a bit of everything. You know, women's sports, much more in the, noticed. Endurance getting noticed, ultra getting noticed, Twitter being big, but also it's perfect. She's a 40-year-old mother of 2 who's a vet. A race you can't finish. Only men have finished it, 20 in the year. And she finishes with 100 seconds. I mean, you can't storyboard it better. And I think that's why it went viral so hard, right? Is that, like, you don't have to be a runner to love this. Like you can't not love this. Like, you can't not love this. This is it. This is, So, okay, we'll talk about this in a minute because I have an existential crisis question, which I think this may contribute to. But yeah, Marcus, look, we all our social media blew up because that's what we're into. But I think even people who didn't follow it, it was on BBC, CNN, New York Times. I don't know what it means, but it's great.
Just a quick Google search on Barkley Marathon. So 2 quick analytics here. You just mentioned BBC, The Guardian, Runner's World, CNN. The amount of press she got afterwards, in whether it's digital press or even TV coverage across the world, was significant. And it really was driven by I think, Jasmine being the first woman to complete the Barkley Marathon. I would argue if only 4 men would have finished, I'm not sure there would have been similar coverage in the global, call it mainstream press. Probably would have been limited to the more niche magazines and channels we know. But Jasmine being the first woman, I think it got really wide reach across the world in the mainstream media. And again, to what we discussed last week, like we need individual human stories to drive something forward. And in this case, Jasmine being this heroic small business, small European woman, I'm sure that she's been driving this now forward quite a bit. And human stories write history. And that's exactly what happened now with Jasmine and the coverage that's been seen globally. The second thing I want to highlight quickly is the Google Trends. If you just quickly do a Google search analytics, you can also see over the last 5 years how much of course, every time there's an event, every year you can see, however, the trend is upwards. So, that was 2021, wow. 2022, this was 2023. And now this year already is more than double than last year.
Wow.
So the Google search, which usually is a good indicator for the mass, any kind of internet user in the world is captured here. It really shows how it's really gaining traction just by looking at Google search results.
Wow. I think you summarized it beautifully, Marcus. As we said last week, stories drive everything. And this is just a beautiful story. It's a beautiful, heartwarming, amazing. It's a beautiful story. And remember, the author is Laz. Jasmine is a participant in Laz's story. And I don't know if we can move on to the existential crisis that's coming, but we may as well.
Now that you're in your detox, what is your crisis you're having, Ned?
It's not my crisis. I'm going to ask you a question and then I'll describe it. Can the Barkley go on without Laz?
Well, if you just take the argument we were just making about humans and myths and individuals who drive things forward, there is a strong correlation between Laz and the Barkleys in the backyard, these 2 popular races he created. Succession is never easy. And I would argue that this race, these 2 races, live and die with the creator. It might be questionable to see who is the successor and if that individual can or want to continue.
We know who the successor is. He's called Carl. He was there at the gate this year because Laz is 70 and Laz can't be there 60 hours. And Carl is great. There's nothing wrong with Carl. He's fantastic. He's amazing. He did a great job. He's just not Laz, right? So the existential crisis is now Laz is about to walk across America this year. He thinks it's his last great journey. And Laz will keep doing this. I'm not worried that the Barkley won't happen next year or next year. But has it become so intertwined? These races are amazing. The interest is going up. Laz can't live forever as much as I wish him to. And he knows that too. A bit like Warren Buffett. Does Berkshire Hathaway survive the death we've already seen of Charlie Munger, but of Warren Buffett as well? Yes, it does. It's a different thing. I would argue that Laz is as important as Warren Buffett in my own head to the world.
I think my 2 cents is the community is now large enough to carry it forward. Will it have the same myth around it without Laz? No. But will it continue to exist? Yes. Given the community is there, people like you, people like us covering it, 2.4 million people watching one tweet, for sure. But I think there will be another Laz somewhere in the world coming up, creating something extraordinary and creating a myth around the individual that creates a race. And but yeah, the Barkley Marathon, it's ironic with now maybe Laz's last race that a woman has also conquered it and finished it. I think it's great timing, and it kind of closes a chapter for this Barkley Marathon at last.
I am not saying he'll be there for years to come, but we know, like he even said it himself. There was an article about it. Like Laz knows. Like Laz, there was Laz number 2, that guy called Carl. So anyway, well, look, everybody, I hope you enjoyed the weekend with the Barkley. Jasmine, well, I'm going to read my drop, my little homage to you, but and to all of them, to everybody who took part.
Talking about female efforts, we had something else happening. We had another female who really crushed it. Ned, what's been going on?
Jennifer Russo. So for those of you, again, backyard, I feel like I always come back to backyard or Barkley. I know we need to talk about more, but I think we can excuse ourselves this week, given the amazingness. Jennifer Russo, who is pretty much my age, and 1 year older, she's 57, I'm 56. She has been on the American team. She is a legend backyarder, running plus 50 yards, so over 50 hours on many occasions. And she won, I think it's called the Ohio Backyard this weekend. I think it was, I don't have it in front of me, I think it was 55-ish loops. And I think she gets a ticket to be in the backyard team. So 57-year-old woman winning, Jasmine finishing, Camille running 6 days further. Ladies are crushing it. I think ultra is one of the most equal sports. Like the further we go, I mean, it's pretty damn even. Like it is even Stevens. Like you get up to 200, 300, 400 miles. What a great sport.
For sure. I mean, I'm always happy to cover those stories. It's amazing. And it's very inspiring to hear those. There also was quickly on the race recap corner, we had the Vietnam Ultra Marathon. Just shout out to another female while we're on this, Vanya, good friend of ours. She crushed it and came first on the 50K. And we also have mentioned him before, but Mr. Stingray from the Philippines, based in Hong Kong, won the 50K as well. So it's good to see people, again, traveling across Asia and taking part in races.
It is, and again, I don't think we can overstate this. We cover trail running and business, and we cover races, but we cover the growth of the sport. Dylan Bowman has just launched his podcast, which is, I think it's called Second Nature, covering business as well, that is growing. But 10 years ago, like to say there wasn't this many races in Asia is an understatement completely. It is astounding. Like there was, last week was the Lantau 70, then there was the Dalat. There was two, Marcus, over the last 2 weekends, there was 2 Vietnam races, right?
Yep.
And in Malaysia every weekend, like the number of races is, some people were racing up in Korea. A guy called Derek Lau was racing up in Korea recently. Like it's just incredible. We are, 2.4 million people will apply for the Barkley next year. Then lads will really have to figure out what to do.
That'll be fun, yeah. No, it's incredible. Well, a quick one on the business front. I wanted to cover some more updates from the world of public markets. I have done a quick analysis on the shoe brand On Running, On Cloud. For the ones who don't know that brand, it's been around for almost 10 years now. It's coming from Switzerland, Zurich. It got famous especially through a sponsorship and partnership with Roger Federer, who did a very smart deal there back in the days to become an angel investor / ambassador. And On Cloud, On Running, went public on the New York Stock Exchange 2021, where Roger Federer had a fantastic return on his investment. I think a very smart way, Michael Jordan style way of partnering with a brand. And those public markets are always a great way, of course, to analyze a business, and you have public information, so it can tell us a bit where the industry is going. And as we are covering, of course, some business segments here on this podcast, I thought I'm going to do a quick few-minute analysis on the recent quarterly earnings on Running. On Running does mostly shoes. They are famous for the shoes of a certain type of look and feel of this cloudy look, cloud look. The sole of the shoe is a bit different. It's Swiss engineering. Have you ever worn any of those shoes, Ned?
I haven't. I've been such a loyal to ASICs. Obviously, I've seen them. I think they look beautiful. I've seen people running them, but I've always just running my ASICs, so I have stuck to those.
Okay. I do wear the on-cloud shoes sometimes as casual sneakers. So I don't have the running shoes, but I have that as my casual stuff sometimes. So it's good. Nothing wrong with it. It's good. The important part of the analysis of the on running, they increased the loss to $30.5 million US. And this is particularly interesting because of the strong Swiss franc. So most of the money is made in US dollars. So converting it back to the Swiss franc means that they have some currency conversion loss there. Overall sales rose to $500 million, and it rose by 28%. Interesting also is that the gross profit margin increased to 64%, which I guess Ned and I know that 64% gross profit is significant and a very decent, very positive margin.
Very good.
What I found interesting as well is that the direct-to-consumer business is growing. So 46% or more, 46% of revenue already is direct-to-consumer. So the strategy for them is mostly to go online and to double down on the existing retail stores. They did say in the earnings call that they're not going to open up more stores. They're going to focus more on B2C, which already is almost half of the business. And they're going to continue working more with the existing B2B partners, not investing in more. Strongest revenue growth comes from APAC. So almost 100% revenue growth was in APAC compared to 40-50% of revenue growth in America and Europe. So I'm not sure if you've seen it in Singapore. They have been around for already some years. I know that. But for example, Vietnam and other regions, I do know they have been investing significantly in the last few years. And yeah, the revenue growth of 100% in Asia is, I think, really manifests that strategy. What's been interesting for me as well, I didn't know, they already are quite active in road running. So they are a sponsor of Helen Obiri, who you might know, who cracked the world record. She won New York Marathon. And they're doubling down on road running, become a competitor to the likes of Adidas, Nike, who we know are sponsoring all these amazing athletes with their flying shoes, carbon shoes. But it seems like On is catching up and also is getting more into the world record territory. And of course, the biggest news of the year is, which we haven't covered yet, but Olympics are coming up and they are expecting to really drive revenue around Olympics. They're going to double down more on running. So they will have more announcements around the Olympics coming, where more sponsorships for Olympics and Paralympics as well. So that's going to be a big year for sports. Not so much for trail, because trail is not yet, at least in the Olympics, but road running already is. And we see how this on is doubling down also on this trend.
Well, Marcus, as always, I love your analysis. Maybe a couple of quick questions on there. Did they say why Asia is growing? Are they putting extra effort in, or is it just the market is growing rapidly?
They didn't say exactly why. They, from what I can see only as a consumer, is that they are investing into B2B and B2C. They're opening up markets. So they have been active in Southeast Asia, for example, driving the market entry there quite hard. Yeah.
And 60% gross margin. I mean, this business was started by a former Ironman, correct?
Correct.
Olivier Bernhard, is that right?
Correct.
I mean, he's a good Ironman. He's a better businessman. he has crushed this.
I think it's interesting. I also then, of course, don't want to just highlight the good things. I also saw some interesting comments on Glassdoor. Glassdoor is that review website where former employees, current employees can give reviews. We all know, I think On is a very decent brand and has very good feedback in the community. Hence, I was quite surprised to see quite a number, not just one or two, quite a number of more controversial comments on Glassdoor, where a number of employees have complained about the work at the firm. For my 2 cents, it sounds like any kind of firm that went public recently, who is now changing the culture internally from more of a niche brand that is very focused on customer and products. Now you also have to manage public markets, investors, earning calls, people like us, right, just talking about it. And I think that comes with a change in culture. So I always find it fascinating how companies have to change from a private company to a public company. And from what I can read, this is also happening on. So it's not a bad thing. It's just very naturally happening to any company going public. But yeah, there are also calls and comments for, like, let's focus back on customers and let's focus back on the culture. But I think the management is trying to balance the various interests here at stake.
Having never taken a company public, or not even close, but as companies grow, it's hard. Like, I know that. You've invested in the markets, you know that, right? I think almost, even like we talked about Iron Man, when I listened to the interview with Paul Huddle, he's like, we're trying our best, I promise you. It's just, as you grow, things change. And when you IPO and go public, I mean, stuff changes a lot. So
exactly. Yeah. That's a wrap. We're going to cover more businesses soon. Anyone out there from your listeners, please send us any requests what we should dig into. In the meantime, I can't wait now to hear Ned's drop. He already hinted that it might be about the Barclays. I'm pretty sure it's about the Barclays. So, Ned, take it away. Your time for the drop.
I appreciate it. Couldn't think of anything else. Can you count to 5? That's easy, right? I mean, we can all do it. Can you cover 2 miles an hour? That's even easier. Put them together, and what do you get? The Barkley. 5 brutal 20-plus mile loops in the woods of Tennessee. Except it's not easy. There are a few adventures on the way. It's not a straight line. It's kind of like life. 1986 it started. No one knew about it back then. Only 13 starters. 1 runner. Only made it 1 loop. No crowd, no socials. Even Lazarus Lake was Gary Cantrell back then. Laz wasn't even born in 1986. On Saturday, March the 23rd, 2024, 2.4 million people liked Keith Dunn's Twitter post. Jasmine Paris finished the Barkley in 59 hours, 58 minutes, 21 seconds. Stop the clock. She did. But she literally stopped the clock for all of us in that moment. Not possible. Can't be done. Too hard. Not happening. And that's why we need Barkley, why we must have these events, these things that are way the F out there, beyond the borderline of ridiculous. Life is way too comfortable. We've become marshmallows. We're too soft. But what should you really do with a marshmallow? Toast it on the fire. Roast it till it squeals. 20 amazing humans have now put themselves so close to the fire that they must have squealed to breaking point. Only 20 people ever have finished the Barkley. So many came over the years and toasted in the freezing rain, but not fully cooked. Just 20 have made it to the other side. It is on the line of not possible. Suspend belief. The best of the best of the best of the best. Jared, 4 times. John, 3 times. Ihor, a virgin. Greg, relentless. And Jasmine. Jasmine, didn't they tell you? It can't be done. What? You didn't listen? Loop 4 last year, a taste of the pain. Loop 5 this year, you didn't have enough time. Accept it. At the fire tower, you had 3 hours, 37 minutes to make it back. It took Ihor, the winner, 4 hours to do the same stretch. What were you thinking? In those 3 hours, 37 minutes, only you, Jasmine, will know the horror, the pain, the suffering, the beauty, and the true depth of your soul that you found. You spent 56 hours to get to that point where you, alone in the woods, with the whole world watching, transcended. You went beyond what is reasonable and expected. We saw the last part, the sprint to the gate, 1 minute to spare, 1 minute after 60 hours, the collapse, the tears from all. But for me, the thought of what you did for those 3 hours, 37 minutes is everything that ultra running life is about. Thank you, Jasmine, for making us all believe. I'll leave the last line to John Kelly, 3-time finisher, who was there at the gate. He wrote this. My daughters were there watching. Thank you, Jasmine, for showing them what I never fully could.
Thank you, Ned.
Choked up. I still, every time I think about it, like it's so, yes, she's the first woman, but like the effort, like what she did, like it's so great. Good on you, Jasmine. Good on everybody. Good on you, Laz. Love it.
Thanks so much. That's the wrap. Episode number 11 is done. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Please follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, and, of course, Instagram. Reach out to us on email. Give us suggestions, feedback, comments, anything you like. We are with you on this journey. Until next week.